Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another edition of the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Another week, another string of great shows for you guys. My name, as always, is Christopher Shepard. Thank you guys yet again for tuning in. And this week should be a very interesting week of shows. We have a special July 4th segment for an upcoming show. We have so many good player profiles still remaining, and we also have some Euros fantasy to talk about, and also some trade talks and their fantasy implications in the NBA as well. And so this week is going to start off with a bang. We have a lot of great segments, including some Euros, including some basketball, and of course those coveted player profiles you guys seem to love a lot. But before we begin with any of that, as always, I do ask that you like, follow, and subscribe to the show. We also do receive a lot of tips and donations, so if you do feel so inclined, please consider leaving them at the link gsmc.cloud. It is a huge support to both me, my fellow podcasters, and ultimately the network as a whole, so anything you leave is greatly appreciated. You can also leave questions, comments, concerns from prior episodes, or even from today's segments as well, and they will be answered at the beginning of the next episode. But without further ado, let us jump right into the show, and we will start off, like I said, with the aforementioned Euros. We had a couple of round of 16 games going on, and they set up some really interesting quarterfinal matches. We will get to that later in the week, but for now, we're going to review the events of the weekend's round of 16 games, and of course, the fantasy stars. Now, we had a lot of interesting games with a lot of interesting players within them. But let's start off with a very thunderous start to the round of 16, quite literally, between Germany and Denmark. This game certainly felt like it could be a trap game for Germany, because Denmark is a very compact team. They have a very tall defense. They, while not necessarily creating much, can really confound you with their ability to have such an industrious work rate off the ball. And for large parts of this game, Germany did look a little bit frustrated, but ultimately they came out 2-0 winners. Maybe that thunder interval really helped them a little bit calm themselves down, maintain their focus, and get that win. But definitely could have gone a different way, but ultimately it sees Germany into the quarterfinal, and it sets up a mouth-watering clash with Spain, which, like I said before, we'll talk about later in the week. But for now, let's focus on the stars of that game, starting off with perhaps the star of the tournament so far, Jamal Musiala. What more can we say about this young man that hasn't been said before? This is perhaps him in his best ever form internationally on a team that fully now has an identity and is truly confident that they can get past anyone at this moment. And he is the centerpiece of all that. 3 goals on 7 attempts this tournament, 92% pass accuracy, 28 successful dribbles. Now, against Spain, his mettle is definitely going to be proven, because Spain has been tough to break down. They look very solid defensively, only conceding an own goal throughout the entire tournament. So Jamal Musiala will have to prove himself yet again at this international stage in this clash. But for now, he is certainly looking like one of the more electrifying players at this tournament for any team. No, every team wants a Jamal Musiala on it because he is such a dynamo, whether it be picking up the ball from deep, running into the box, laying it off for his fellow players, or just, offering that space that opens up so much opportunities for Germany's other creative players. Jamal Musiala is an incredible asset, especially if you're looking for a player who can make a deep run in the tournament for your Euros fantasy squad. And then on the back end of things, there were a lot of things to like for Germany. Their defense looked very solid in this game. Yes, it could have been a lot worse had that Joachim Andersen goal stood. But I do believe that the German defense had a lot of good takeaways from it. I could have picked any player from this Germany defense and been very happy about it. Antonio Rudiger was obviously the man of the match. Nico Schlotterbeck stepping in for the suspended Jonathan Tah. Fantastic defensive performance from him. And also David Raum stepping in for Maxi Mittelstadt. And Joshua Kimmich remaining semi-solid at right back. I know he's playing out of position, but he's still there. But Manuel Neuer, in my mind, captured the headlines. He's actually not been asked to do that much for Germany because Germany have been solid defensively around him, and he hasn't faced as many shots as we expected. But when he is called into action, he's proven that any criticism he faced earlier in the tournament has been dispelled. He's had 7 saves, 2 clean sheets, and 5 claims throughout this tournament. So he definitely is going to have a much larger role in the Spain game, because I think Spain will also be on the attack quite often in this game. The possession battle will be even, and Manuel Neuer will be called upon because of the fact that Spain is so pacey on the wings. I don't know if Germany can deal with that. So Manuel Neuer, look for him, especially in the next game, and especially if Germany do progress, to be one of the central players in this Germany squad that you might want to rely upon moving forward. That will just about do it for Germany. Let's switch to the most impressive team in the round of 16, in my humble opinion, Switzerland, beating the defending champions Italy by the same scoreline, 2-0. And one of the players from Switzerland truly impressing this tournament, highly underrated midfielder, internationally as well as domestically as well, Ruben Vargas. Fantastic goal. Might be the goal of the tournament so far against Italy. He has a 1 goal, 1 assist, 79.75% pass accuracy with 5 attempts. And I just think that in a weaker side of the bracket, if you're looking for someone in your US fantasy team who will definitely have an easy chance, obviously England look vulnerable, and that is who Switzerland is playing next. Why not take a flyer on a guy like Ruben Vargas, who you can certainly trust will be bossing the Switzerland midfield. Obviously, Switzerland definitely does have a very intriguing midfield with guys like Granit Xhaka. You have a guy like Xherdan Shaqiri, who kind of plays as a 10, kind of plays on the wing. But Ruben Vargas definitely seems like the center of it. Him and also Remo Freuler, who I can't forget, scoring the goals, and kind of leading this revolutionized Swiss midfield. I think it's going to be a much more difficult game for England than people realize. Definitely perhaps the most difficult of the tournament because of the dynamic Swiss midfield that's equal part experienced and equal parts youthful. So Ruben Vargas is definitely one to watch. Now, unfortunately, we do have to switch to England. They still haven't kicked into gear. That's all I'm going to say about them. But if there is one player who certainly proved that big-time players make big-time plays, it's the young man named after the Beatles song, Jude Bellingham, scoring a beautiful bicycle kick in the dying moments of their game against Slovakia to send it to extra time where they ultimately would win 2-1. But Jude Bellingham has come under heavy criticism in this tournament, but looking at the stats here, he certainly seems as if he is playing like the best player England has right now, and he's definitely proving it. He has 2 goals, the most on this team, tied with Harry Kane, 88.75% pass accuracy on 3 attempts, 11 dribbles. So I just feel like Jude Bellingham, if he's allowed to play the number 10 position freely, it truly unlocks a lot more in this England squad. If Jude Bellingham can just be Jude Bellingham and not have any other players conflicting with his space and looking so disorganized, Jude Bellingham can certainly help England get very far and play some attractive football whilst doing it. It doesn't have to be a turgid affair every single game for this English side, and they're making it that way. But if I'm Gareth Southgate, I'm just letting Jude be Jude. I think that Jude Bellingham just needs the space to operate, and when he does, good things will happen for England. And that's all I'll say about that. Now let's move on to kind of the mismatch of the round of 16 between Spain and Georgia. Ultimately, it was kind of a shock that Georgia took an early lead in this game, but ultimately everyone knew that Spain would come back because they just have so much firepower, and it's truly a joy to watch, especially these young forwards. But before we get into one of those young dynamic forwards, I do want to offer my congratulations to Georgia for lighting up the tournament. Their fans, their supporters were fantastic yesterday. Every single time Georgia was on the counter, the roar from the crowd was deafening and incredible to listen to. So kudos to Georgia for making this tournament what it was. And ultimately, kudos to the young man in net who had one of the most fantastically dominant goalkeeping performances of the tournament, especially in a team that relied so heavily upon him, in Yorhi Mamardashvili. His stock is definitely rising. He's not going to be a Valencia player much longer after this performance. 31 saves in 4 games for a Georgian team whose defense is leaky to say the least, but just them trusting that he will stop everything in his path, especially long-range shots. He was fantastic on those. Georgi Mamardashvili, whether you rostered him or not, is such a feel-good story in this Euros, and someone who will definitely have a very bright future, both internationally and domestically. The sky's the limit for him, and I just wanted to acknowledge at least one Georgia player after that game, because they definitely fought their hearts out, and ultimately they just lost to a far superior team. And let's talk about this far superior team in Spain. Definitely looking like the scariest team in the tournament right now, especially because of the fact that gone is the tiki-taka era, and now you have these 2 dynamic young wingers in Nico Williams and a guy I want to talk about, Lamine Yamal, who just add that dynamism and pace and electricity and fire on the wings. Now, Lamine Yamal, youngest player of the tournament. Youngest player to feature in a knockout phase of the tournament. Youngest player since Cristiano Ronaldo in 04 to register the most assists in this tournament with 2 on 11 attempts. He has a 79.75% pass accuracy and 21 dribbles. He is asked to do a lot for the Spanish side. The big question is, can he maintain this at such a young age, or will he fall flat when facing a better team? We'll see against Germany. But right now, Lamine Yamal and Yamal Musiala, that is going to be a mouth-watering clash. And if you're a fantasy manager, you are chomping at the bit to get one of these guys on your team, because they are truly the cream of the crop of this tournament. But that will just about do it for this segment of today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed this Euros weekend. Keep on watching the Euros round of 16 until the quarterfinals start on Friday with that Germany-Spain game. But coming up next, we'll be looking at the 2024 NBA rookie draft class in terms of fantasy implications. Who, if anyone, from this rookie draft class can step up and be a contributor in terms of fantasy? You will have to see. We will be right back with that segment.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me